Oh my God! Here we are. Welcome everybody, welcome back to this week's episode of The Walking Dead Season 4, Episode 15, episode recap. I'm Phil, the Issues Guy from IssuesProgram.com. With me as well is my co-host in this adventure, sneaking away from his real job, because we can't really pay him yet except for hugging.
A well-deserved break.
Taking a well-deserved break from work to talk to us all. We have Joe. How's it going today, Joe?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm not in Puerto Rico anymore. I'm back. I'm sorry for pissing off some of the people that don't like Puerto Rico. We had some hate mail. It says we're from other places besides Puerto Rico and we don't like you. But thank you for tuning in. I'd like to thank each and every one of you. There was a bunch of you that tuned in last week and checked out the video. It was our highest rated podcast, putting us as the 97,000th ranked podcast on YouTube. So that's really something though. But we'd like to seriously thank everybody that's checked out the video. And if you want to comment or at any point, you can email me at igotissuesman@gmail.com or call our hotline at 781-990-8509. And please check out issuesprogram.com. Now that we have all that mess out of the way, the important thing that came from tonight's episode is I want Steven Spielberg to get on the movie The Night of the Living Jurassic Park. To have Jurassic Park zombie dinosaurs. I think that's our theme for today. Zombie dinosaurs is what came out of this episode. Amazing.
Hard to take that guy seriously with the shit that was coming out of his mouth tonight. All about the video game crap and whatever it was he said to her at some point about, I don't even know what it was. It was just...
Doesn't it seem like he's stalling a little bit? Like he doesn't want to get to Washington? He just likes the attention? A little bit, right?
A little bit. The things he did say were true about, we had more people, we had an armored vehicle, blah, blah, blah. That stuff, it's worth making a point over.
It just seemed a little bit convenient. It seemed almost like he was just trying to find a way so he could check out Tara's butt a little bit more. It seemed like that's all he cared about, and the fact that she was into women only enraged him. Only enraged.
She got a butt, she got a big ass, dude.
Yeah, there was a lot of loving of Tara tonight.
The mullet and the big ass go together.
Yeah, that's a hot group. That specific little faction of the group is exceptionally hot. So a lot of crazy stuff happened this episode. We're back to a normal, quote-unquote, normal television type episode with storylines bouncing from, basically going from many different locations. We had everything converge, sort of. I think everything set up what our finale is going to be pretty well of how this is all going to lead up. I think we have the perfect penultimate episode of The Walking Dead to lead into what should be an exciting finale, and we set up some sort of conflict coming up that some bad shit's going to happen. But tonight's episode wasn't the same as the last couple of episodes. How'd you feel about that? Did you miss the focus on one basic story? Did you feel like that this was jumping around a little bit too much for you?
No, I enjoy the focus episodes where they focus on just one group or one character. Those are nice, but you do want movement with all the stories. It does kind of separate the timeline a little bit when you do those individual focus to make it a little harder for the audience to keep track of how many days it's been, who's where. So it is good to go back to the ensemble episodes more than just the straight one story.
I agree. We were due for it. When I saw Rick, we saw Rick towards the beginning of this episode, and we'll get to it. We'll go through this episode. When I saw Rick, it felt good. It was like, oh, there he is. Oh, there he is.
But there wasn't enough Rick. There was only a little Rick in there.
It almost seemed like, he's just a little tiny prick, a little tiny Rick. It seemed like it almost seemed like the story was telling us Rick's doing okay. He's pretty happy right now. We don't really give a shit what's going on with him because things are too good. Oh, everything's okay in family Rick. Rick's found the new support structure for his son. His son's playing games, and again, we'll get into that a little bit in more depth when we get into the story of the show. But really, it was only a touch upon Rick, and for most of the episode, I was thinking, why the hell did we even have Rick? Till it circled back in the end with Hale and the boys, and realizing how that was connected.
Right.
But yeah, it seemed interesting. It was an interesting switch up there. Because you forgot about that. You forgot
it was
forgot for a second about.
It was kind of strange too, because they say that they had tracked Rick to the train tracks, and that's where they lost the trail. When Rick runs away from the house, aren't they on like a road there? Aren't they on like a driveway or a street? Like, how do you track someone on a concrete? That's just foolish.
Yeah, they must be the best trackers. They use the Miss Cleo school of tracking. Look at my crystal ball, Joe. I will find out where this Rick guy went. And we know one of them saw his face, so Rick fucked up not killing that guy. Sorry. Rick should have killed him. Yeah.
Rick should have killed the whole house.
Yeah,
everybody in the house.
Rick 2 years ago, before Rick became Farmer Rick would have killed them all, like the guys in the bar. He would have left any survivors.
I think you're right about that.
He's a little. I mean, he was obviously injured. He was not in top form, so he was more in the die-hard escape plan. But really, he shouldn't have left any survivors that could have seen him. But it is kind of loose that they did track him. It's a little convenient. It was a little bit convenient. But there were some convenient things going on in this episode. But that's The Walking Dead. So enough foreplay. Let's get into this whole episode. So the whole episode starts off with the Glenn, Tara, Eugene, Abraham, Rosita, Espositoza, starting off with the mullet talking about, as we mentioned, zombies killing the dinosaurs. That maybe this thing caused the zombie apocalypse. Maybe the zombie apocalypse caused the downfall of the dinosaurs. Have you ever thought about that? And then the mullet, as Joe said, starts talking about video games. What was your favorite kind of video games? Did you like shoot 'em up? Did you like zombie action games? Did you like the Telltale Walking Dead games? I mean, what did you like? What did you like about that? Did they get a memo from AMC that their audience likes video games, so they had to throw a video game reference in there? Or I'd like to see it part of the comic books.
I think they just wanted to make him seem more geeky, less more geeky, more sciencey. That he's focused on that kind of stuff. The talking of the dinosaurs, the use of the big words. He's really cliche as a character.
Oh, completely. And I feel like just because I made mention of the comic books, I have to go back for a second. Last week's Drunk Puerto Rico podcast, thank you everyone for tuning into that. I did get called out a couple of times by some of the commenters that wanted to point out so I don't know how I want to address this exactly. Yes, what happened with the little girls did happen in the comic books in a sense. It was two little boys, and Carl killed them instead of Carol. Or Carl killed the crazier one instead of Carol. So something like that did happen in the comic books, but it wasn't the exact same thing. If I remember correctly, Joe's question was, were the girls in the comic books? And I said no. But there was a similar story. And then if you listen on in the podcast later, I say there was something similar with a little boy. So I just need to officially say that there was something similar in the comic books as the children killing. Because it seemed like, just in general, last week's episode, I feel like we have to mention before we get too crazy, last week's Walking Dead episode in general got a lot of fanfare and a lot of attention because of the dead babies thing, the dead children thing. So there's a lot of attention.
Dead children, it was the killing of children.
Yeah, and a lot of people, and I feel like we need to address this, a lot of people have stated that they think that last week's episode was possibly the best Walking Dead episode since the premiere. I've heard a lot of people, since the premiere meaning the very first episode, since the pilot. And I don't know about that. It was a very good episode. I don't know about it being one of the best episodes. I think it was the best one in a while. It was the best of the second half of season 4. But yeah, but it wasn't the best episode of all time of The Walking Dead. I might have even enjoyed parts of tonight better because of the way the storylines bounced around. But we'll get to it. Okay, back to this episode. So Joe made a point that, and he's right, that this whole segment was set up to show kind of more what kind of guy the mullet guy is. That he's a geek, that he's a nerd, that he's just has his quirkiness. He's very quirkiness. And then we go over to Abe, and he's not letting Tara keep guard because he knows that the mission's important. And this is where we get the first side of Abraham tonight, a little bit more about him. He's really into other people's business. He's very pushy. He's a pushy guy. He's that guy at the party that's telling you, "Oh, come on, guys, do a keg stand. You got to do a keg stand. You got to do it. You
Well,
can't
no,
not
he's
do
more
it."
than just that. He's on a mission. He's on a mission. That's all he's focused on. Tara even says it. What happens when your mission's done? What are you going to do? But he's all about the mission. He's all about this guy's got to survive. This guy's got to get to D.C. And we learned for the first time that they're coming from Texas to get there.
From Texas to get to D.C. But I agree with you. But I also think, in a way, he's on a mission, but he's also a little cult leader-like, where he needs people to try to go with him on his mission. He can't just do it alone, and he knows it, so he's trying to rope as many people into it as possible. Like, what are you doing? You need to come with me and save the world. Granted, if I really bought that this Eugene guy could save the world, because I think Glenn sums it up perfectly at one point in the episode, where you could just say, yeah, he's trying to save the world. Like Glenn doesn't buy it, because he talked to Jenner. We've all talked to Jenner, and I buy Jenner's scientific logic over the mullet's scientific logic.
Right. Where's this guy coming from in Texas? What do we know that's in Texas? Like Houston, I think they say. The only thing we necessarily know for sure is in Houston, or at least I know, is what, NASA?
Astro Stadium, the
Right.
Astrodome.
Like.
Does he work in the Astrodome? Did he build the Astrodome?
And there's a NASA thing there too, so.
Okay.
Maybe this guy's a NASA scientist and he happens to actually know, but.
Still, I still would buy Jenner from the CDC trying this his wife's logic over this guy's logic. If you can't find a cure, I don't buy some mullet's going to do it. I don't buy it. I just don't buy that at all. I think this guy's so full of shit. I think this guy saw.
He is full of shit, but I think he is a smart guy. He was pretty right on about driving around, finding the other side of that cave, and in the timing of it all.
Just because you're a smart guy doesn't mean you can invent the atom. Doesn't mean you know what you're doing in this situation. And he could just be a smart guy. Like, he calculated that Abraham was the type of guy that was going to survive no matter what, and he needed to make up whatever lie he needed to make up to make sure that he stayed with that guy, and that guy protected him at all costs.
Well.
And he might
Abraham also says that they were on the sat phone. Abraham knows about the satellite phone, knows that there were people on the other end of it. So there might be more to it than, of course, we know. I mean, there's always giving him the benefit of the doubt. It's either he's either onto something or he's a red shirt.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I hear you. I tend to think more that he's going to end up being a red shirt. Like, we're going to die without knowing whether he knew the cure or not. And it's going to be left on a sort of he could have helped
That's what I was thinking too.
And so we'll never actually know whether he was helpful or not. I mean, this is one of those cases where I'm really glad I haven't read the comics, so I don't know what's going to happen with this storyline. I'm completely going to be surprised with it wherever they take it on the show. So we get to this Abraham and Tara scene where Abraham basically says to her, "I thought you were in love with Glenn, and you were following him around because you were in love with him." And he's funny. He's just like shooting the shit with her, kind of messing with her, trying to figure out why the hell she's following Glenn. Did you do something, or was it something that you didn't do? She said it was something that she did. And she gets the gun. She said they both have missions, and she was basically talking about what do you do when the mission's over? What does someone with a mission do when the mission's over? And I think that was just foreshadowing that she kind of wants to go with Abraham. She believes in the whole saving the world thing. She just needs to make sure Glenn and Maggie get back together. But also more into her, how much she feels, and they get more into this with her and Glenn, how guilty she feels for what happened with the governor. She's taking this way too hard, man. I mean, I think she needs to be nicer on herself. I think in no ways could she predict how crazy batshit insane the governor was going to be. I think
after everything the governor did for her dying father, her niece when he came along. Like he helped out a little. He helped get them out of that building, get them on the road, get them living again.
Get them off SpaghettiOs because you know you can't live on SpaghettiOs.
Right. You know, he gave them hope, and he gave them, you know, human contact that they hadn't had in a long time. So there was every reason to believe this guy was up and up and a good guy. And she didn't know he wasn't until that moment, until that sword came out. That's the moment she knew he was all full of shit, that he was just an awful person.
Until then, it makes sense to think from his eyes that everything he's saying, your sister's in love with this guy seems charming, he lost his eye, there could be bad guys. You know, you never can tell. It just seems like it makes sense. Hi, Betty. You wanted to join in the podcast for a second? So yeah, Betty enjoyed the episode too, the cat that just wandered by. So the mullet keeps talking after this, and he's flirting with Tara. And when was the last time this guy saw a girl that he could actually probably have? Instead of, he's got Espinosa there, but she's way more into Abraham. And seems to have
if he's all science and stuff, and then all video game on top of it, chances that he's ever with that mullet, chances that he's ever been laid, I don't know. Mullets are really big still down south. I mean, we're up here in Boston, up north. We don't see that many mullets. We make fun of them a lot up here, but down there, down south, and a lot of that belt and Texas, that mullet is still a rockin' hairstyle. It's
I don't know why I sense this guy's like the Cliff Clavin of his bar. And if anyone hasn't watched Cheers, I just see this guy as the guy that's at the bar and is like the know-it-all guy. That's like, yeah, you know what? There's zombie apocalypse. I'll have a beer. No, the zombie apocalypse. I can figure this shit out, Norman. I know what's going on.
In the zombie apocalypse. Comfortable shoes.
Comfortable shoes, yeah. That's the secret to life in the zombie apocalypse. Comfortable shoes, according to Cliff Clavin, the mullet head savior of our society. I just don't buy this guy. I'm sorry. I call bullshit on this guy. So.
Well, let's clarify to this guy. He's a smart guy, but he's also right. He was right. Listen, we have to follow Glenn away from the truck that I just shot up because I'm an idiot. He was right about that because. Going with Glenn only increases the chance that they're going to be safe, and then you find a car and you take off. Then he was right when he told Sergeant, you know, no, we're not going to go pile 8 of us into Mummy Mobile and go to DC. We're a day away from Terminus. Let's go find out what's there, see if they have any supplies and all that shit. You know, so
he calculated directions correct. Yeah, he calculated the directions right to get them back to the train tracks. He figured it all out. He's not an idiot. That's what I'm saying. He's not an idiot. But again, if he's somebody that has the cure that understands the zombie apocalypse,
the only problem I had with him being such a smart guy is they have Mommy Mobile. It's at least 8 people can fit in there, and then they say we're only a day's walk from Terminus. Your day's walk. How about you like an hour ride?
Yeah.
Get in the
You have enough gas. Why walk at that point? Like you can piggyback. I know we've gone to concerts or we've gone to different places where we've piled way too many people in a car for brief times. People can sit on laps to get to Terminus at this point. If anything, Terminus is really what it seems at the end of this episode, where they're playing.
It's not like they're going to get pulled over either.
Yeah, there's no cops. It's going to be like, hey, woo, we're the zombie police. You got too many clowns piled in that car. We've all gone on burn runs where we piled tons of people in the car when we were in high school. So come on, we can do this in the zombie apocalypse to get to Terminus. I mean, we know Glenn can sit on Maggie's lap. We know that can happen pretty easily. Oh God. So from this point on, after the mullet, we go to Glenn sees a sign for Maggie and or sees one of Maggie's messages. Go to Terminus. Come this way. You know, follow the signs, and that's when we go to our initial commercial break. And that sets up one of our first stories. And then when we come back for a commercial break, here we get into our Daryl and I still don't know what this guy's real name is, so I'm going to continually call him Hale. Hale. Who's definitely.
I think his real life name is Joe something or other.
Yeah, that's not what I mean. His character name. I don't care about real people's names in
Yeah.
this. No, we don't care. We care about their characters. There's way too many real people in the world to care about who they are in real life. Unless they're one of those
Yep.
people that it's just like, oh wow, I don't know, Jack Nicholson's on Sons of Anarchy. Oh, that's Jack Nicholson. We're not going to call him by his character. We need to stick to character names. So this guy is Mayor Hale. So we see a bunch of guys laying on the floor, and Daryl's with Hale's group. And the zombies are coming up on them, but they have traps, zombie alarm clocks, and they start talking about Daryl, like, "Where's Robin Hood? Did he leave? He's out dropping a morning deuce." So we just get a feel for what kind of guy Hale is. And Joe mentioned this a couple weeks ago, and it's true. They're really putting Hale off to be like a Merle. He's a fun, controlling, charismatic, but piece of shit kind of guy that's getting off living in this kind of world. This is what he's always wanted. Something like this.
Yep, just like Merle. That's what Merle always wanted. Merle would have fit in perfect with these guys.
Yeah, Daryl even says it to Beth. I wrote this in my notes, but Daryl says it to Beth that at one point that when she goes, "You were made for this world. You were made to be in this kind of world." And he says something like, "I've just been living this life for so long." And that's kind of what Hale says to him at a couple points in time. He says, "Come on, man." And I think that's why Hale wants him so bad. He wants his soul. And that's a different aspect that we really haven't gotten into this show because it's always been our group and then maybe like one other group. But it seems like the powers, the people, the real charismatic cult leaders or the organizational leaders really want people to come to them because the more people you have, the safer you are, and not to mention in this particular group, the more people you have, the more danger you can cause because they're just
the more you can make someone think that what they're doing is their idea and not your idea, the more control you have over those people.
Absolutely.
So you get people to come to you and to stay with you rather than saying, you like the way Sergeant Ford went about it, no, you have to stay with me. Well, fuck, forget that. I'm going to punch you in the face, Sergeant Ford, and Glenn and Ford are going to fight. But with Terminus, it's, come here if you want. We're not going to make anyone come here.
Yeah,
with the governor, it was kind of the same way. If you showed up, you were welcomed in, but if we went out and found you, we'd just kill you. Take your stuff.
But is Terminus going to be like the beach with Leonardo DiCaprio? Like once they got there, you can't leave afterwards. Once you're there, you're stuck there, and you can't come and go. It's like, or it's weird. Are there going to be like strange women and natives that are growing marijuana and shooting you like you're in a video game or something?
I didn't see any marijuana, but I definitely saw fruits and vegetables, and they were grilling. Something was cooking on a grill.
Yeah, there was, and they were going to fix it. Yeah, they were going to fix him a plate. It wasn't going to be like the rat burgers in Demolition Man. Okay.
Do you know who she was? Wait. Do you know wwho she was? You don't know who she was, do you? You didn't recognize her.
No, we're going to get to it. I have to think about it. We'll get to that at the end. We'll get the big disclosure at the end. So we thought this is when we get right after the morning deuce line. We go over to our first Rick and our only Rick moment of the night. Or did he come back at the end? I'm not sure.
No, he didn't. It was just the one sighting of Rick, I think.
Okay. So we get our Rick, Michonne, and Carl, and as I mentioned, it looks like things are good. Rick looks to be back to normal health. They seem to
be Michonne, they're getting along great.
Great, super great, like to the point where they're joking, they're fighting, they're playing balancing games over big chocolate bars. I think this is something we need to address. Carl seems to have a serious chocolate problem since the pudding incident.
Mm-hmm.
Since the pudding incident, he seems to have a little bit too much of a sweet tooth.
He wants that chocolate. He wanted that big cat.
He did want the big cat. Do you know what's dangerous about that? All other jokes aside, all easy jokes aside, what's dangerous about that is if things go bad quick, not only is Carl going to have to deal with going back to the zombie apocalypse and a different kind of lifestyle, he's going to have to deal with that sugar rush, the chocolate withdrawals. They're going to be hard. They're going to be hard. Especially a kid like that that's on the edge, on the border anyway, from shooting random people, from shooting random kids.
No, he's the most well-adjusted of the whole group as far as I'm concerned right now. And I still feel like that was a justified murder of the little boy. He said, put the gun down. He stepped forward, gone. Bye-bye. Put him down.
In some ways, I
If
really.
someone's got a gun trained on you, you listen to what they say. You do what they say, or you get shot.
In some ways, I agree with you that people like Carl and Carol are the people that are most mentally hooked into how you got to live in this type of world. Be nice to the people you care about, but in the
Carol,
moments.
I think, is still a little confused about it. I think she's starting to get it, but I think she's still a little. I think the moment she shared with Mika about the whole "it's not how you live, it's not how you die, it's how you live" thing, I think that helped her get it a little.
This was before we started doing this podcast, so we didn't really have a chance to talk about it. So you still think she was batshit crazy for killing those people? I think she did the right thing. I really think
she didn't do the right thing. Listen, even the slightest knowledge of how a disease or a virus or a bacteria works knows she didn't do the right thing. The reason why she didn't bring it up to anybody is because she knows everybody would have said that's the wrong thing. That's not how you stop a virus. That just doesn't work. That's foolish. It's foolish.
You can't just bottle
like she could have, just by being in the room with them to stick the knife in them or do whatever she did, she could have gotten sick. Like once someone's breathing and the droplets are all over the place, that's how you communicate. Like no, this was a foolish act. There was nothing scientific about it. You know, they thought back in the 1600s, oh, we'll make all these leper colonies. Leprosy will go away. Guess what? That's not how this shit works. You know?
Let's cut off the person's hand. That will stop the plague. That will do it.
You know, here's the thing. Nobody was sick in the prison, and then people were sick. So there was nobody sick around to get that first person sick. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were there for months. Nobody was sick. All of a sudden, the boy is sick. So he had to get the sickness from somewhere else. So killing these other two people does not mean you're going to save the prison from the sickness. It had to come from somewhere, not just sick people.
So you would say that she was thinking emotionally because she was afraid of her kids or people that she cared about becoming in danger, so she acted rashly and irrationally. So yes,
yeah, I think she was wrong about it.
Okay.
I don't think she was, and that being said, I don't think she was wrong about killing the little girl. I think that was justified. Yes, absolutely. You don't know if those other two are going to get anybody else sick or be the responsible thing or even die themselves in turn or anything like that. But you do know that that little girl will kill again. She had no idea she did something wrong.
I think it's very hard to pass any judgment on Carol for what she did last week. She needed to stop that girl then, because for exactly the same reasons you just said, and not to mention that just as a danger to the baby, it's just putting another child in danger that they're set to protect.
To all of them. To all of them. She even said it. What if I killed you, Carol? What if I killed you at some point in that episode? You know, she's screaming at her. Why would you kill my friend? What if it was you? I could have killed you. And Carol knew that. If I go off alone with her, the first night I'm alone, she could put a knife in me then.
Absolutely. And we go back to, at the end of that scene, we go to, as we mentioned, Carl eats the big cat, and we see the big cat wrapper go on the ground. And Rick is happy because Carl's happy. And I think
my son's got a friend.
A friend. And Rick really gave Michonne and Carl both gave Michonne the I want to do you eyes. I think they want to have a weird father-son.
No, Rick might want to do her, but I think he'll keep his penis to himself as long as he doesn't want to ruin the friendship that they're starting. He doesn't want to come between that either.
I say he's banging her next year. By next season, we
probably
bang.
But that could be 6 to 8 months away too.
Bang. Once they get to Terminus and can chill for a while, and Michonne kills all those guys that are with Daryl with her ninja sword for fucking with Rick, and it's just gonna be bang. It's gonna be a party. Bang. That's what it's gonna be. So we go back to a commercial and we come back to Daryl out killing breakfast, and Daryl's rival,
other Bo.
Yeah, henchman bow guy number 2. I think that's his name.
Yeah, there's 2 other bows in the group. There's another crossbow and a bow.
It reminds me on, I know I'm talking about Glee here. It reminds me on Glee when they had this character in the back where they didn't want to name him. They go, "What's your character's name?" And they say, "We just call him Other Asian." It's just about, he's like, Other Asian. So we have
number 2.
Bowman number 2. We have Other Henchman. And Daryl kills a rabbit or is hunting a rabbit. This guy shoots it over his back and says something like he claims it. Daryl says no. They get into a bit of a fight, and
Dibs, man,
Hale
dibs.
dibs, and then the other guy says, "Oh, I bet I bet a bitch got you all messed up, like a dead man walking. You lost a piece of tail." Let me tell you something. If it was a kid, or was your piece of ass a little kid or not?
Yeah. Daryl was gonna do him in right then and there.
Because
How did Hale sneak up on him? All those leaves, dead leaves on the ground, all that brush, and like Mayor Hale all of a sudden comes out of nowhere to stop Daryl from stabbing this dude in the neck. How did that other dude sneak up on Daryl to get so close with all that brush and stupid shit? He's tromping through the woods like that. That rabbit would have been gone.
And how does that guy know that Daryl's trying to mack on an underage girl? Is he watching him to that? I'm not convinced that those guys don't have bad. Because how does he know? How does he know he has an underage girl? Come on, Daryl. There was a little something. No, I'm kidding.
I think he was going younger than that.
Yeah, I know. Beth's of age. I'm joking. It's just a little creepy. But so yeah, Hale comes over and asks if he claimed it, and then we learn about Hale's rules of the road to keep things from going Darwin every once in a while. You have to claim.
Which we know is all bullshit from the Rick episode where Rick's under the bed and the dude comes in. There's somebody already in the bed. Obviously, the bed has been claimed. Yeah. But the dude comes in and is like, "That's my bed now," and kills him for it.
Or maybe what I was thinking was that the person in the bed didn't realize that the bed was already claimed by somebody else, and the guy that came in was like,
"No." He talks about it. He says, "No, I found another bed. I didn't fit in it, or something like that. It was too small for me." Like, so he didn't claim it. It was already claimed by the guy that was in it.
But I think that was your point right there was even more hammered in later in the episode with what henchman number 2 does to Daryl, where that not all these guys follow the rules that Hale set up. Because Hale's just one of these idealists that, again, is like a Merle that doesn't really care what happens, but just pays lip service, only deals with the rules when they matter, because Daryl's breaking the rules all over the place, and he doesn't give a shit, because he likes Daryl, because he has a man crush on Daryl. Like everyone else
doesn't even know the rules yet. Daryl's just been picked up, you know? He's not even sure what the rules are. And he says that to him. He says, "We can't punish him. He can't punish a man for not knowing the rules, for breaking the rules when he doesn't know the rules." So he cuts the thing in half and says, "So you both get half."
Yeah,
like any dad would do with I want the last piece of pie or last chocolate bar or whatever. You can split it in half. You both take a piece. Now you know the rules and. He even keeps saying we just need to follow these very two or three rules and cooperate with each other, and we can live forever like this.
Sounds a lot like
doesn't want to cooperate.
Different kinds of rules, but it sounds a lot like the other group where you just go by simple, small rules, small questions, and everyone gets along. And I understand where this guy's coming from, and I think ideally it makes sense, similar to like in concept when a crazy person that's trying to lead a revolution's concepts in paper sound decent, but in practice it's just a fucking mess. And I think that's the case in this situation where this guy's a real charismatic leader. He can talk a good game, but really all he gives a crap about is power and getting stuff. And revenge and everything like that, and everyone else living by his codes. I think we're going to get a sense that this guy doesn't live by a code at all, that he just expects everyone else around him to, that he goes by his own code. But we'll see.
No, it's that is absolutely, and you can definitely see that. I mean, this guy knows as much as any of us know. How many times have we been in fights with our friends over shotgun? All you got to do is say shotgun. As soon as you walk out of the building, say shotgun. It's yours. But still, how many arguments have we had over shotgun? Who gets the bitch seat?
But think about that exactly. Like all that stuff's good in the basic, in the criminal lifestyle or everything. But watch an episode of The Sopranos. How many guys get beer bottles over the head and get their ass kicked because they take it a bit too far and ribbon your friends, or you take someone's seat and you're like, no, I was fucking sitting there. or you hit on
Yep.
someone's girl that they called dibs on before, and it's like you understand that there's rules of the road, and that's a tough way to live. It's not how Daryl's used to living. And then we'll get to that at the end with a couple of more things that Hale says to him when he compares him to, I have it written down, but the comparison.
Like when Polly and Christopher are about to kill each other over the $5,000 dinner tab, and the waiter comes out, "Where's my tip?" And so instead they kill the waiter.
They kill the waiter, yeah. And then they go to Atlantic City for a steak. I gotta watch The Sopranos again. So we go over to Glenn and Abraham, and Abraham makes, I don't know if he was, when he says Casey Jones, I don't know if he was talking about Ninja Turtles Casey Jones.
No, he was definitely not talking about Ninja Turtles Casey Jones. He was talking almost about the Grateful Dead Casey Jones riding that train high on cocaine. It's about a guy, a conductor from the 1860s, died in a train, his train collided with another train. He's a big famous guy in the South. Casey Jones. That's what there's a couple of country-ish bluegrass songs about him. But that's who he was referring to, not Casey Jones. And I knew you were going to say that about the Ninja Turtle. I've been waiting for it this whole time.
I know, you were locked and loaded with that one, man. I love that.
He's talking about a historic figure from down south, a train conductor that died in a horrific train crash. He died trying to stop his train from colliding with another one. There it is. Good
job, Joe. That was very good. So yeah, Abraham really brings in, and so does Eugene. But Abraham and Eugene bring in the comedy relief. They're with the one-liners. We haven't had comedy relief like this on the show since maybe what's his name? I'm blanking on his name. The old guy that with Winnebago.
Daryl.
Not Daryl. What was his name? The older guy with the Dale, not Daryl. Dale, yes. Dale had a lot of good one-liners in season 1 and into season 2, but he always was self-righteous too. These guys, and I guess Abraham's a little self-righteous, but no,
Abraham's completely self-righteous. The only thing that matters is what he wants to get done. But he's smart enough to take advice from the brain. And he's smart enough to know that he wasn't, when he and Glenn got into a fight, he wasn't trying to kill Glenn or anything like that.
No, he just got.
He knows what he has to do, and he knows what he has to do to get it done, and that's his only focus.
Exactly. So this scene, they talk about getting to resting up, and they make a deal that they would give the riot gear to Eugene. This is where the episode's moving a little slow. It's going a little dragging along to get to some action or get to what's going to happen here. But I was enjoying the Hale and Daryl storyline a little bit more than the Glenn. I feel like we could have got a little bit more Hale and Daryl and a little less of the Glenn story, or maybe even a little bit more Abraham and a little less Glenn. I don't know. It's hard to explain. It seems like the Glenn stuff dragged on a little bit. So, at least for me. So we go to Hale and Daryl when we come back, and what's the plan? You're not staying with us. You're not good enough. You need to stay with people. Basically, he's giving them the hard sell. He's like, you need to stay with us. We need to stay together, form a crew. He teaches them about the claim. You claim something, you rule. It's yours. If there's breaking rules, people get their asses kicked. There's no lying, and the beatings.
How you feel at what the day's attitude is.
What the day's attitude is, how bad the beating is, and why not we work together? We're meant for living in a place like this, and that's basically it. And here it is. Here was the comparison. He goes, Daryl, are you a cat person? And he goes, vicious creatures, cats. And Daryl doesn't really answer him. He goes, vicious creatures, cats. Nothing sadder than an outdoor cat that thinks it's an indoor cat.
And I don't understand that. I understand it the other way around, but I don't understand the outdoor who thinks he's an indoor.
Okay, that Daryl is somebody that is from the outdoors, that lived the hunter's lifestyle, that lived with guys like this as thieves, knock-around dudes, and he can't expect to live. It's almost like this guy knows too much about him again. Like he's got a little bit of Miss Cleo, and he realizes that Daryl lived with a good group of people, like a good family. Kind of what Beth was saying to him, that you're part of a family now, Daryl Dixon. You're part of us. This is a warm community. This isn't what you're used to in the before. Stop being a lonely guy. And basically saying you're bullshitting yourself, Daryl, if you don't think you're one of us. You're trying to live in captivity. They're trying to castrate you, Daryl Dixon. Kind of what Merle was saying to him too. So again, same sort of thing. It's like, what are they doing to you here, brother? You know, you're a pussy now, and you're part of the group. And then Daryl's like, no, I'm part of the group. I'm part of the organization. He's an outdoor cat, a former hunter that's living in captivity. But I think the difference is Daryl always wanted to live like that. The only reason Daryl lived on the street for so long was because he didn't have another choice. I think if he had a choice at any point in time, he wouldn't have chosen to live like Merle. He wouldn't have chose to be someone that drinks in the morning, that goes out and does drugs, that gets into weird fighting situations with Merle. That he thinks of all that as a piece of shit lifestyle. He thinks of him, you know, I think he looks at what's happened as a chance of making himself something greater. And I think that this guy's kind of trying to bring him back down to that level. He's the devil on his shoulder.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, he definitely sees him. He had him made from the beginning. From the moment he saw him, the moment he laid eyes on Daryl, he saw the bow and something about a bow guy. You know, anybody with a gun, they could have been a teacher or this or that. But if you're walking around with a bow or a crossbow, this is what you do. You've been doing this for a while. That's what you're a hunter. You're not just a guy with a gun. Anybody can have a gun, but if you're walking around the zombie apocalypse with a bow with finite ammo like arrows and bolts and shit, like you're pretty hardcore.
Yeah,
you're outdoorsman for sure.
And you're out there surviving, making do. You're badass. So we come back from the commercial and we come back to Abraham and the Mullet and Glenn group, following the track, catching up with Maggie and Bob and Sasha. Ahead we see a big long tunnel with lots of weird sounds, and as Abraham put, there's lots of reanimated corpses in there. Something like that. He's like, listen to my recommendation.
If there are, I can't guarantee that we're going to be able to save Geek's life.
Yeah, save the Mullet.
Well, there's a point I got to make too here. Glenn walks up to the side of the cave and touches it with the blood, and he says, "Oh, this is still it was still tacky or still a little wet," so he knows he's getting closer. They're catching Maggie because the zombie blood isn't dry. And then when they get inside the tunnel, Chicky says, "Oh, all this blood at the cave-in, this must have happened today.
This must have just happened.
This just happened." Now, if it did happen today or just recently, like she seems to think, there would still probably be a lot of dust kicked up in the air. I can't imagine there not still being like massive dust and like not being able to see and particles floating around. But that's besides the point. My question is this.
Mm-hmm.
How long does it take zombie blood to dry?
Yeah, we don't know that. That hasn't been established. And
that's my question.
Not just that. What kind of consistency is it? Is something that gets affected in a dank place? It's pretty hot and humid in that area. And is the zombie, we know zombie physiology is squishy. So would a zombie, would
the blood will coagulate.
Yeah, with something, with some, you know what I'm saying there, would there be zombies that would just stay sticky for a long, long time? Like
it's not the same blood. It doesn't even look the same. You know, they've said that many times. You've heard Daryl say, "This isn't human blood. This is walker blood." So there's a definite difference between the bloods.
I think this treads on something we were talking about a lot, that the physiology of the zombies and how the whole zombie thing works compared to other mediums that have done zombie stuff is kind of weak in The Walking Dead. They don't have that stuff established completely. It varies from situation to situation a lot. So we go back to Abe and the Mullet, and like we said, they're following the tracks, and they basically separate. Abraham's like, "Glenn, my advice would be to go around here. It would take extra long time, but I know you're not going to do it. So here's where we separate." They separate, but it's like a nice separation. There's no bad feelings. They're like, "Sorry, I hate you." "Oh, that's okay. No, you're not." Ha ha ha.
Take this food.
This food, yeah, it was really friendly. It was a good time. And then Eugene tells Tara he thinks she's really, really hot, and she's like, "I like girls." And he's like, "Oh, whatever."
He says, "I know, I knew that, but I don't think he knew that. He'd been hitting on her the whole time."
The whole time.
You know, he's just trying to save face in front of the other guy. So I knew that. Yeah.
He's hoping she's bi. He's hoping that the zombie apocalypse is gonna get thin to find another girl that likes girls out there. So you know, the numbers are dwindling. So he's hoping she's gonna dig the mullet and think the long hair and kind of. He's got man boobs and.
At the very least, he's hoping that she's bi. Absolutely.
Exactly. He's hoping he
in the zombie apocalypse, when there's only 5 of us left and the other girls are straight.
I'm pretty sure there's a lot of straight guys in prison that have no choice but to have sex. That's all I'm saying.
You've said it before. When you're starving in the middle of the desert, even a saltine looks like a Ritz.
Yeah, that would be the greatest cracker I ever ate in my life. I don't care.
Right, exactly.
That tastes good. That tastes good after about 20 years. About 20 years of nothing. That's gonna taste great. It's gonna taste great being stuck in a booth. Okay, we move on. So they separate, and Eugene and Espinosa and Abe go off to try to find the cars to head back off to Washington. And Glenn and Tara go into the cave, or the tunnel. And we follow Glenn and Tara. And she starts talking about how basically they're talking about how Glenn understands how she felt. And this is the first time we really heard Glenn talk about his life before the zombie apocalypse that I can remember. He talks about how he lost everything and how he felt numb. And we kind of know that he probably felt that way until he bumped into Rick. Out in the middle of Atlanta. Like, that was the point where Glenn kind of felt something again. And this is where she really gets into how she feels about what happened with the governor, that what Joe was saying earlier about how she didn't know he was really serious and she believed in him in that she even found a girlfriend and her sister dead, but she didn't really, like, the most horrible thing she's ever seen is what the governor did to Herschel, cutting off his head. Like, right at that moment, she'd realized, shit, I backed the wrong horse here. Like,
and I kind of got bored with that conversation because that's a conversation they had already had together. They had that as soon as he took her out of the prison. They had that conversation, and we have to assume that they've had that conversation. They've been together for days now, weeks maybe, a week maybe.
That's the unfortunate thing, because with a character like her, that's all she's got. That's why she's dead.
That's all she's got, and that's all we've been. That's all that we have from her too. So there is a point. That's her only dimension at the moment.
She's dead.
Sadness.
She's dead or off to a sitcom, off to a spinoff. One of the two. She's not lasting. She's not lasting on the show. If we were doing a Deadpool here of like who thought was gonna die first, like I'd put she's dead by next week.
She's pretty close. She still doesn't. I don't think she still even gets it that she's got to shoot them in the head.
Yeah. But the only thing that to me that makes me think she's alive is what happens later with her. Is what Glenn does later with not telling Maggie what happened. Makes me think that she still has something to do. Like they're leaving her alive so her and Maggie can have a confrontation at some point. But it wouldn't surprise me if that's it, because she has nowhere else to go. Why do we care about her again? Or she's going to go off with a split-off group. Somehow that girl.
Well, that's what she says. She says she wants to go with them up to D.C.
Yeah,
she's
so
going to go with them to D.C.
I don't see her lasting.
And here's the thing: she gets hurt at some point when the zombie falls off the ledge, and she gets pushed to the ground so the zombie doesn't like land on her. She hurts her knee. And now she's been limping this whole time. She's been walking for another couple hours. They finally get to this cave. And it's like, oh, I'm going to go into the dark cave with Glenn even though I can't frickin' move. I can't run if we have to run. I can barely walk. I thought she should have gone with Abraham.
I kind of agree too. She was like
she's more of a bird
Point Break trying to chase after Patrick Swayze. She's like with the bum knee. It's like he just can't catch Swayze with that bum knee. Oh, the knee again, Keanu? Sorry.
Oh, as he falls off the fence.
Sorry, Johnny. Yeah, sorry, Johnny. Looks like you don't get the man this time, Johnny Utah. There it is.
It's away again.
Johnny Utah, Swayze. Swayze's not getting away this time now from the waves. The waves are gonna crash down. Anyways, so basically, we have the whole Glenn forgiving her, and we get that Glenn understands and he's there for her.
Yep.
and he understands how she feels and doesn't blame her at all for what happened with Herschel. So we go back to Daryl and the whole group breaking into the SOA garage to fuck up the boys for what they did to Charming Heights. No, they break into a car garage, and this is where we don't know who they're hunting yet, but they say they're looking for someone. They say no one's been here. It's empty. It's
Right,
empty.
they're not here.
They're not
Yeah.
there. And they start claiming everything. They start claiming all the cars. And Daryl just goes on the ground and passes out. And that's all that scene is. And we go back to the zombie roadblock that we were talking about a second ago, where Tara and Glenn get to this big, giant wall of zombies. And that's where she says the thing about, looks like the killings happened today, but we've already established that Tara's kind of a dumbass, so we don't really need to listen to anything Tara has to say there. And Glenn looks through all the zombies and all the dead corpses around.
Kind of looking for Maggie.
Kind of looking for Maggie.
Or Tasha.
Yeah, same thing that Maggie was doing for Glenn a couple episodes ago, looking around and stuff. Yep. So we see them coming in the we see all the zombies coming down in the tunnel, and we're not sure what they're going to do. They're in trouble. So we come back from the commercial break right where we left off, with Glenn wishing he still had his mech suit, wishing he didn't give it to Eugene, and he says Maggie's not one of them. Like, oh great, now all we need to do is get through the army of walkers. But don't worry, Maggie isn't one of them. And Tara just basically says we need to find another way. Bam, back to Abraham and killing a pesky walker in a minivan, and they find a car with gas, and they get into the car, and he wants to, and this is where it gets weird. Eugene starts to insist that he's
make a big deal about navigating.
Yeah, that he's not going to let some woman navigate when he's the navigating champion of.
When I'm a true son of the South.
Yeah, I'm a son of the South, the navigating champion of the virtual and the real world, or something.
I got us from Houston. Yeah, I would have just smacked him right then and there. Navigating the virtual world, buddy. Your video games.
Yeah, is that what he's really talking about? Is he talking about?
You know how to get from car gas to Stormwind, do you? To Stormholds? Yeah, to the Barrens, do you? I know how to get through the Barrens all the way to Stormwind.
Yeah, he's leading raids. Is that what he's doing? He's leading to fight the Lynch King? Is that what's going on? What he's talking about? It's funny. I was excited. I was watching the reality show, the King of the Nerds, and there was this one guy that's like, I'm the leader of the Horde. I'm like the highest rated Warcraft player in all of the Horde.
Warcraft for life.
And you should listen to me. No, it was Forsaken for life. He'd scream the Forsaken shit all the
time. Undead.
Yep, undead for the Forsaken. So, so as we said, back to Abraham killing pesky walkers, and Eugene is demanding that he navigates the car. And we go back off to Glenn and Tasha as she fell, and as Joe mentioned, hurt her foot. She's clumsy. Stephanie said when we were watching the episode, she just turns and goes, "This Tara is clumsy. But Glenn should just leave her there. She just keeps hurting herself. Like you were saying, she just keeps hurting her knee over and over again." And if it wasn't
she gets her foot caught in the rocks.
Yeah, her caught in the bear trap and stuff. You know, she's trying to get a picnic basket from Yogi. So we go back to picnic basket. So we go back to Abraham and Rosita and Eugene, who it looks like Eugene's. For a second, I just didn't realize what Eugene was doing, and I'm like, oh, he's getting them lost because he's just an idiot. And I'm thinking this is more clues that he's like a babbling idiot. He's babbling about car stuff, like oh, this is the kind of car you want in the zombie apocalypse. Like he's a car salesman. He's just like an annoying dude, like a Cliff Clavin again. And he leads them back to the tracks, and he says something about
the other side of the bridge.
Yeah, he gives her some Geordi from Star Trek technobabble about how he got them there. I calculated the positive hypotenuse to the east side of the Wayne Towers to get us here, and she talks about how he can't save the world and feel bad about what he does. He needs to feel good about himself.
Again, that same motif that we've been getting for the last couple of episodes. It's not about how you die. It's about how you live.
Okay. I understand that, but I still saw that a little bit as him stalling. It seemed a little stally to me.
Well, I think he was figuring, like he says 5 minutes later, you know, there may be 8 of us, but we don't have much supplies, we don't have a great car, we don't have a lot of ammunition, we should go to Terminus, we are really close to there, this seems like a good spot to try to get reinforcements, to try to re-up our supplies, get a better vehicle, all that sort of stuff. And he could have already, if he's supposed to be as smart as he says and all this, he could have already been thinking this right for the last, like, day or two. You know, we keep getting closer.
He's 3 steps ahead. We're not on Eugene's level. Dude, Eugene's on like a totally higher level, Joe. You don't understand. Me and Jen are on this level. You're on that level, dude.
But he does good. What do we end up seeing right before the commercial break? We see him get all excited about something sitting there in that van. Ends up being Maggie and Bob and everybody. So
being Maggie and Bob, and I didn't catch that at first, but yeah, he gets really, really excited as he sees something coming. And we're like, what is he seeing coming? And I even forgot about that by the time they come back at the end. So we go back to Tara and Glenn, and Tara and Glenn are fighting off zombies, and she's telling him to leave, go find Maggie, go leave. She's ready to sacrifice her life for Glenn and his cause. And Glenn goes, no, I'm going to stay here and fight. And he shoots off a bunch of zombies till he runs out of bullets. And then right in the perfect time in the Olympics, right when he's about to get eaten by zombies, where they're about to get killed, machine guns get fired. And oh my goodness.
It's Maggie. It's the reunion. And then they have sex on all the dead bodies right there, on all the dead zombies, right in the middle of the tunnel in front of everybody.
He bends her over and gets a hold of those sweater puppies and just like rides it back home, milks the cow, puts it's like that Team American part. Only a woman can.
And she burns that picture. You'll never need a picture of me again because now that we're together, we'll be together forever.
Oh, and we speculated about this. Would we see this season? And yes, we did. We saw them coming together, and we get probably our happiest ending in a Walking Dead episode. I mean, I guess the Daryl and Beth episode happy ending was interesting. We'll get to that in a second. So we go back after our commercial break of Love, and we go back to our reunion of Glenn and Maggie, and Tara and Maggie meet, and Glenn lies. He admits the truth and just says that she's someone that helped him, a kind person. And we have a mix of the groups of Abraham. We have Abraham there, and his group mixed with Sasha's there and Bob's there. Bob gets his one line in the middle of everything, and basically we get the mullet saying, we've talked about this a few times. The mullet basically says that the smart plan is to go to Terminus. Abraham's trying to get everyone to go save the cure. We get Glenn's reaction that we mentioned earlier in this moment, where Glenn's like, you can tell that Glenn doesn't buy the cure. He's like, cure, yeah. Is he talking to you guys about the cure? They're coming in the room, is he talking about the cure again, that wacky Abraham? Like, Glenn doesn't buy it for a freaking second. He doesn't buy it. And Maggie and Glenn trade stories, and this is when she burns the picture. So basically the whole group, this whole big group, all agreed that they would go to Terminus and check it out and then go from there. And that ends their whole little group for the moment. And then we go back to Daryl, and this is our last little bit with Daryl and Mayor Hale. And Daryl notices as he's walking out. We mentioned this in passing, but Hale's men. Hale figured out that because he saw the other random bad guy plant half of the rabbit body back in Daryl's bag when he was out taking a piss to try to set him up so he could get a beating, so they could all beat the shit out of Daryl. But Daryl's not getting his ass kicked on this show. Nope. So
Hale claims to have seen the dude do it, to put the rabbit, the top half of the rabbit in Dale's stuff when he went out to pee.
Yep.
And if that's the case, he did this so he could show Dale how the rules work.
You know what I mean? Do you know what I think?
And I gotta figure everybody else. This guy's a real penis. I think everybody in this group hated him, and I think it shows that everybody in the group hated him when we see what ends up.
I think Hale planted it. I think Hale did it.
You think so? I think that might be true too. I think that's also possibly the case. I don't think anybody. I think Hale's like, this guy's a penis. He's always been a penis.
Yeah, I want this Daryl guy as my number 2. He's cool and the chicks like him. That's what I think he wants. That's really what I think he wants. So we go back to Daryl walking up, and he walks with a dirty form. We see that guy is his rival is dead. The Pokemon battle has conquered his rival, and he's the best.
Beaten to death with an arrow in his head.
Yeah, with the arrow in his head. So now Daryl starts drinking.
And Daryl's gonna put a blanket over him.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I forgot to mention.
Well, no, first he's gonna put a blanket over him, and then he realizes, fuck it, this dude's a piece of shit, I don't care.
Yeah, that was cold-hearted.
You think I give a shit about a bitch I am a sucker?
Yep. We like think Daryl's gonna have like this like I'm still a good person moment, but it ends up turning out he just gives him the whole the mafia like he just snips on a boogie right on him.
Yep.
Like, who are you, man? The jacks. Bit. So he goes walks up to Hale, and right there he starts getting into the whole Big Brother Merle moments with him, and he starts drinking with him. He's like, oh, it's been a long time since I drank since I was lit at dawn, a long time, this is where we have the echo of what Daryl said to Beth about living this way for so long. Like he's lived this way for a whole time. He thinks that this is the only way to live, and this guy's tapping right into this. He's feeding off of him like a bad kid that's taking the kid that's trying to do his homework. He's like, no, come on, you want to smoke weed with me outside. You don't want to do your homework. Come on. Peer pressuring him right back into his old lifestyle. And they see signs for Terminus. And Hale's like, no, this is a lie. This is a problem. This place is a problem.
Yeah, they're not going to accept guys like us. Do you think they're going to accept a bunch of marauders? We're a bunch of scum. They don't want us there. And that's where we find out who they're chasing, who they've been who they were sure wasn't in the garage, who they're looking for.
Exactly, and it ends up being Rick. They've tracked him. This is where we get into the little magic. They've tracked him down the concrete road into one of the Terminus signs, and they've convinced that they're going to go that direction. And then we see one of the guys that Rick faced off, Tony. He saw his face, and Daryl looks down and he claims something, and it was almost like he took the pill. Neo took the pill right there, and he became part of those guys by saying claim. And right as he reaches down to claim, we see the chocolate bar. We see the big cat so we know that Rick's right ahead of them where they are. So then from here we flash over to happy music again. Another one of these happy music ending episodes to The Walking Dead. And it's Maggie and the whole group reaching Terminus. It's an open gate, a weird sign that says, put your guns down. Happy non-judgment music. Do you notice the happy non-judgmental music? It was like, oh my god, it was like Jack Johnson or something. Everyone was happy. Oh, it was like happy music. They all walk in, they see some greens cooking, they see some ice buckets, they see some woman that Joe's going to tell me who it is in a second, and it looks like a warm, happy place. And then this woman says, this woman that isn't Catherine Janeway from the Star Trek Enterprise, no. She says, hi, welcome. Hi.
Close.
Am I close? She reminds me of
Close.
Star Trek. Is she Star Trek?
Close. It should remind you of Star Trek. She should absolutely.
Is it Deanna?
Even closer. Closer.
Was it Crusher? It was Crusher?
Almost there.
Who else could it be? Was
there.
Was it Tasha Yar?
There you go!
It was Tasha Yar.
That was Tasha Yar.
Holy shit!
That was Tasha Yar.
That couldn't have been Tasha Yar. That was really Tasha Yar. She's back.
That's why Tasha.
You can't trust that bitch. She's really a Romulan. That's what we've come down to. Be careful for her. So she says, "Hi, welcome to the Enterprise. I'm gonna get killed by a muck monster in season 1." Spoiler alert. It looks like it's been a long road. Why don't you get settled, wife? Fix you a plate.
So on that note, I actually have to get going. I gotta go punch out
Joe.
before.
I will see you next week. Thank you, Joe.
Oh, thank you. It was good talking. I'll talk.
Okay, everybody, that's Joe. He has to escape from work. I'll talk to you soon, brother. And And so that's where we end tonight, folks. That was The Walking Dead, episode 15 of season 4. Very, very interesting stuff. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. You can check out all my podcasts at issuesprogram.com, or you can email me at igetissuesman@gmail.com. Call and leave your messages on what you thought of this episode and what you're hoping for the finale next week at 781-990-8509. And we will be back next week for the final episode and final post-episode recap of this season of The Walking Dead. And we'll be also talking about what's next here for Issues Program post-episode review podcasts and see what other shows we're going to be doing in the near future. So we'll keep an eye out for that. Everyone, thank you very much for tuning in. Check you next week. Music now. Oh, yeah. Batman. I'm the hero this town needs. When I'm down on my luck, I see to look everywhere. Gotta find my dreams. When you find my energy, you gotta find a scream. Gotta look for the demon inside my extreme. Look out my window, go.